For the drivers this season in the Bootleg Racing League, it's been one that some may not have expected. The championship fight has seen 4 favorites come out on top. One of them, of course, J.R. Shepherd, the multiple-time series champion, 3 times straight. He has ended off the campaign with the title. But this year has been different, especially with no drop weeks included for the BRL's Grand National Series for Season 4. For these competitors, it's been Kenny Kibby who's led the charge with James Lowe and Justin Morton, all with a realistic shot along with Shepherd to come away with the championship. The season is approaching its final few races, but the question is, which driver will come up top with the title? We're about to see how these drivers fare, as it's one of the most important races of the season. It's Martinsville Speedway, and it's live on the Global SimRacing channel. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the virtual paperclip for the 8th race of the 2020 Season 4 campaign and the final race of the Moonshine Challenge, the BRL's Grand National Series, presented by the Cruise Shop and Motorsports Drop. I'm Justin Prince. Alongside the booth tonight is Devin Henry. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. It's one of the oldest tracks in NASCAR currently on the schedule. Let's learn about Martinsville Speedway with your GSRC track guide.
Welcome to a piece of racing history. The Martinsville Speedway in South Central Virginia opened before NASCAR was even founded, and it is one of the sport's original tracks. Its paperclip shaped half mile has grown from a dusty pioneer to a beautiful racing facility. Going off of the paperclip nickname, Martinsville is 2 12-degree banked corners attached to 2 800-foot-long straights. Getting out of these corners is all about managing the rear tires sliding around. It often feels like you're coming out of a valley as you head on to the straights. Martinsville is very much a rhythm-based racetrack though, some even referring to it as a rocking chair. You get that sensation because you want to feel the front of the car slam down under braking and then lift back up under acceleration. Making things even more complicated is the fact that the track is only 55 feet wide. Down in the corners, you'll find that yellow curve. It's elevated off the track by several feet, and if you catch it with those left side tires, you're bound to grab a handful of steering wheel. All of the action isn't on the track, however. The pit road that starts in the entry to Turn 3 and exits out of Turn 2 is only 46 feet wide itself, making pit road under caution look like a circus. Martinsville is not a track that you can rest on your laurels at. Always on top of the wheel is the name of the game. The drivers that do that best find themselves with a grandfather clock trophy. The fans come from all over, the drivers come from all over, even internationally, to race at the hallowed grounds. So settle in, buckle up, it's bound to be a great race.
That was a look at your GSRC track guide for Martinsville Speedway. Now, Devin, let's talk about what to expect for these cars today. How do you feel they'll drive here at the paperclip, especially with the pressure on if they want to win the last championship of 2020's iRacing calendar?
Well, I tell you what, this here is just a half mile of fun for me, Justin, Sean, and everyone else watching. As for about the 15 or 16 guys on track, probably not a half mile of fun, because this track just eats you up. Even though it's flat on the straightaways, not one of the fast bowls that we go to. Just a little banking, 12 degrees in the corners and that concrete surface. If you have a tire on the concrete and a tire on the asphalt, the car doesn't like to move straight. It likes to shift to the side. When you're going in on entry, if you don't put in enough brake, you fly through the center of the corner into the wall. You put too little or you put too much brake into it, and you are going to spin out the rear tires and spin around. On exit, you throw too much throttle on it, guess what? You're spinning out too. There's so many great ways to spin out at Martinsville, and all these drivers will have to figure out all the different ways to not do that, Justin.
Yeah, spinning at Martinsville today, especially with cars around you, could be an absolute disaster. But to remind you of the series' title sponsors for 2020 Season 4, the Cruise Shop is a team of highly experienced travel agents that have a huge passion for travel, The Cruise Shop specializes in cruises, all-inclusive resorts, escorted tours, Disney, family travel, groups, honeymoons, and weddings. Want the opportunity to help you plan your next dream vacation? Call them today at 260-755-6125 or visit their website at thecruiseshopfw.com. This series is also presented by Motorsports Drop. Struggling to keep track of what's happening in all the biggest racing series each week? Motorsports Drop is for you. Catch up with last week's big winners, the biggest races on this weekend's calendar, or the biggest stories in the world of racing with quick news bites on Mondays and Fridays. Subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, Google Podcasts, and more. Search Motorsports Drop to find them, or find our full list of providers at linktr.ee/Motorsports Drop. Let's take a look at your point standings to find out what you may have been missing for the championship scrap. So far, it's been one where it's been a back and forth affair for a couple competitors. But after 5 straight victories with J.R. Shepherd, it's still Kenny Kibby on top of the championship standings with one of the best averages finishes of the season, 267 points, 4 points ahead of James Lowe, who started off the campaign with 2 victories. Justin Morton enters tonight third. He is one of the few drivers who has won outside of Shepherd in series history along with Lowe. He won here back in the spring at Martinsville. Shepherd in fourth and Jeffrey Harden rounds out the top 5, 49 points back. The realistic chances, though, are among your top 4 for the championship competitors. As noted as well, this is the final race of the Moonshine Challenge. Of note as well, though, J.R. Shepherd already clinched said title with 4 of 5 victories out of the 6-race mini-series. He has also already received his championship trophy per series officials. With that, let's take a look at your race details for tonight as we get ready to go racing for the paperclip.
Boy, I tell you what, this is what it comes down to. No drop weeks this year, and when you come to round 8 of 11, you know that there are no more chances to, just take something back. And when you come down to the points battle that you guys just saw there, Kibby in front, Lowe's just 4 points behind him, Morton is just 2 points behind them. Any of them slip up, J.R. Shepherd will pass them in the next, say, 3 races. But in a 100-lap race here at Martinsville, no tire changes is what makes the difference. When you are on maybe cold tires on a late race restart and you have just eaten up your rear tires, it can become an absolute disaster. And you only get one faster pair too. So if you've already used that up late in the race, that can be troublesome as well. So many factors to include in when you come to the end of the race. But to start off the race, no qualifying. The grid is set by last week's race, with the top 8 from last week being inverted.
Indeed, and that could, in theory, cause a lot of trouble, especially if we get cautions after cautions after cautions to get through the pack. The drivers towards the top of the board is Tim Janowski with a 20.087, Shepherd in second, Altice, Kibby, and Lowe the top 5, separated by about just under a tenth of a second. So very tight at the top of the board. You can see towards the bottom of the board, however, 0.6 of a second fall off from your top times. Keep in mind as well, on top of this here, it is a cold racetrack, Devin. 69 degrees Fahrenheit, 65 the air temp, mostly cloudy skies. There's a chance the lights turn on by the midway point of this race.
Yeah, and that's what makes this interesting. A lot of times we see these cars having to deal with such hot race conditions, but tonight that's not an extra factor to go into those tires. You can just worry about that concrete in turns 1, 2, 3, and 4 and be concerned about your car, but still, you don't got that wind velocity hurting you. You don't have anything like that, and that makes things so much more easier. One less thing to worry about, but as the track does change from day to night, there are different factors to include, because the track will even maybe grip up a little bit more. As you mentioned, Justin, it's already so cool. But on top of that, sometimes I keep my iRacing graphics down a little bit, because the glare that you can get sometimes from the sun or the lights can actually be a little bit hindering towards your driving. So it all depends. That's just an extra setting on iRacing that you might be able to flick off or on.
They haven't thought about, but here's the thing though, I also think that the counterpoint is usually when it's a colder track, the cars go faster, meaning these drivers are going to likely be carrying more speed down the straightaways into the braking zones.
and we see a lot, the chrome horn isn't always used on purpose. Sometimes we saw a number of times last week when every single car with a 7 or like a 1 or everything just felt like wrecking for some reason. Sometimes it's just a difference in braking points. You know that a guy like James Lowe or a guy like J.R. Shepard is going to be more comfortable later in the race on used tires, diving into the corner harder than, say, some of the guys towards the back half of the field. And when you have drivers who have those different philosophies and braking points, catching up to or being next to a driver that is completely different based on tire wear, comfortability, drivability, that can make for chaos, especially at such a thin track like Martinsville.
100% on that. And keep in mind, there's just 55 feet of track width specifically. Elevation for the circuit about 740 feet. It's essentially 2 drag strips attached to tight hairpin corners when you really break it on down. Tight 580-foot corners, 800 feet down the straightaways. There's not a lot of space to work with. And for the driver's patience is going to be crucial. You have to think of it.
Sorry, I jumped on you there because I was going to add even in the corners, because it's even, in a way, it's thinner down there. Because you see right here on board, that's about as high as you can be. If you spend too long with the right sides in the asphalt and the left sides in the concrete, your car's going to want to whip around a little bit. So Steven Spieth here, we take a lap along with him here, hugging the inside. Don't touch that curb, because if you touch the grass in these cars, boy, it's going to hurt. But as we saw last time, it kind of goes in high here. You don't want to have your tires on different surfaces. And you're going to see smoke like that everywhere, because guys are going to spin out a little bit. You see the wheel turn right a little bit. The slightest amount of acceleration too quickly through the middle of the corner will make this car hook to the left, and you are not saving it at a track like this.
Interesting thing is, James Lowe, you can see barely putting any wheel into it. Just seems like the car wants to actually step out on the brakes to the point where it's actually helping him rotate, to where he's having to flick the wheel to the right.
Yeah, and you even see Spieth there, kind of the same thing happening where the rear end is kicking out. And it's so easy to do that. Race cars aren't necessarily built to have too many inputs. So you're inputting on the throttle, you're inputting into the steering wheel, you're inputting into the brakes. And if you want to be aggressive here at Martinsville, what you have to do is essentially live on the edge of your inputs. You're going to be on the gas while you're braking, starting to turn into the corner. Some guys can handle that. Guys like me, I can't handle that. And so, yeah, when you got the wheel just slightly turned in, it almost turns into a dirt car, kind of like in a sprint car, where you're on the gas and you use the brake a little bit to help set the car in and kind of hook it to the left. You can kind of do the same thing here because of how flat it is, as Donnie Moore goes for a little bit of a ride off of 2 there. That's part of it here, is you can really kind of set the car into turn, but boy, that's just dangerous. That's flirting with disaster.
Overall, who do you feel has the best shot for today based on what you've seen with practice as well as just the tendencies when it comes to the paperclip with its unique way you have to drive it?
Well, we saw Tim Shanoski on the top of the board earlier, and already Justin Morton and J.R. Shepard have topped him on the practice sheets. But Justin Morton is one of 4 winners all time in the 4 seasons of the Bootleg Racing League. He knows how to get it done here. He's done it before a couple seasons ago, and he is in that championship hunt. He has to beat James Lowe and Kenny Kibby to win this championship, and I think that if it's not the obvious choice of J.R. Shepard, it might just be Justin Morton's night to win his 2nd career race in BRL Grand National Racing.
Practice now wrapping up. We'd like to remind you that live timing and scoring is available for tonight's race at GSRC.tv. Let's get GSRC.tv to keep up with your favorite teams and drivers. Those teams and drivers are all set to go racing. After J.R. Shepard set the fastest time in practice with a 20 flat, it'll be Brian Dean with the inversion who will brace to the green flag today in the 23 car, while Jason Menda will start on the outside of the front row. Todd Liston carried some good speed last week. He'll start from P3 alongside Justin Morton. Kenny Kibby starts in row 3 alongside James Lowe, while J.R. Shepard with the inversion starts in 7th. Again, topping inversion does end potential race attendance. Austin Belke, as a result, shuffles up to P8. Bruce Pearson did not put in a single lap in practice. He'll start P9. Lowell Jewell, the boss man, starts in 10th.
Jeffrey Harden will open up this race in 11th, Kurt Smith in 12th. Inside of row number 7 will be Joe Segala, and outside of him, coming from the back, it will be the 55 of Steven Spies. Mike Allen starts in 15th, Donnie Moore in 16th. Row 9 on the inside, Tim Chinoski was fast in practice, but will have to run through the field, and Ruben Altice rounds out your 18-car field here at Martinsville Speedway.
Roberts now rolling for this action as the track temp has dropped to 67 degrees. Winds curling to the northeast at 2 miles an hour. Very low humidity as well. NC day, June 30th, 2020. Currently approaching 8 p.m. Lights expected to turn on towards the midway portion potentially of this race. Now, your keys to victory for tonight.
Be aggressive, but not too aggressive, right? And then also at the same time, save the tires, but use up the tires as much as possible. So everything conflicting possible here at Martinsville. But I think the most important fact, do not put yourself in a situation to go to the back. This track is so difficult to pass on in these corners because they are so slow. If you spin out and force yourself to restart in the back, you are going to have a hard time coming forward.
Everything all set to go from the drivers to the virtual fans in the stands. The iRacing pace car is on. The final race of the Moonshine Challenge. The fourth last race of 2020 for the BRL's Grand National Series is all set to go. Green flag is up, we're underway for the paperclip. Crashing at the start and finish lines, the caution is out.
And that is one of the domino effects that you can get here at Martinsville. This was so minuscule. This is going to start with Todd Liston and Justin Morton. Two guys with a difference in opinion coming off of 4. Here's your GSRC replay machine here. Liston comes in hot, watch on exit. This is just a racing incident. Morton comes down, Liston goes up, a little bit of net code helps out. And it's just a domino effect. Everyone trying to dive and avoid each other. And it's so difficult to see on such a thin track, as we mentioned, that sometimes someone will slam on the brakes to avoid someone, and the guys in the back just couldn't see it. Here's an onboard here from Liston. I mean, just look at how minuscule that is. And it tags up the entire back of the field.
You had no idea that was coming. The car who went around that triggered the caution flag, by the way, amongst them was Tim Chinoski. We talked about was so quick in practice. He's now in the pit lane. He's out of the race car, demolished.
That is just unfortunate, and that is why in official races, I don't care where you are in the D-Class ARCA series, you don't want to start in the back unless you're going to sit back for a while there. Yeah, Chinoski was so fast in practice, and now he is going to go multiple laps down if he even wants to rejoin this race.
So already likely down one race car, at least for now, with Brian Dean still off the front of the field. Menda, Kibby, Shepard already up to 4th because of that craziness, by the way, from Justin Morton.
Well, of course, it has to be easier for one of the best guys in the field. The Cruise Shop 98 machine just given an early Christmas gift there from 7th to 4th in a mere lap.
Remember, this car does have the new damage models, so for some competitors, you may notice that they may be losing their TV panels. In the case of Jeffrey Harden, who was among the cars who were spun around, he currently is having his TV panel hanging onto the back end of his race car by a thread of note. 44, he's currently scored in 15th position. So you may see some of that come into play. You can see how much that's flopping around.
In aerodynamics, much like in the Dirt Street Stock series that we have on GSR last night, aerodynamics don't matter. You know what, man? Punch in the front nose, rip off the rear end, punch in a little bit of the door. As long as those front wheels are straight and your suspension is okay, go to town, boys. You're fine. Go win a race.
I mean, look at it this way. There's been discussions on having no TV panel can help you at tracks like Bristol, right? Let it go. Let it go either way. 94 laps to go this time by Keenan Menda. Front row, Kibby and Shepard, row 2. Morton and Bulky, row 3. Lowe and Liston in row 4. Green flags up, we're back racing.
Great restarts, or the initial start and the restart now by Brian Dean. Kenny Kibby able to punch in that hole, send Menda back into third.
Already most of the field diving right to the bottom of the racetrack, and while you can at times get the top line to work to defend a little bit, and in some cases based on tire wear, make it work for passes, you don't want to get stuck up there, especially in the short run.
And that will be something that some drivers will have to come to terms with when they're trying to pass another car late in the race. Sometimes diving into the corner late or diamonding it can help, but you can't do it if there's someone too close behind you because they will try to get around you. And right now, Kenny Kibby trying to force the 23 Brian Dean into a blistering pace.
Here comes Kibby now trying to get towards the bottom of the racetrack. Earlier tonight in the SK Modified race, came with the P2 finish behind JR Shepard. They were bumper to bumper for much of the second half of that race. Just can't get the run quite yet. Almost again like Kibby wants to save and wait for the run off the corner here.
And just like I mentioned about using the outside, there's no one behind Kibby, so you'll see him go in higher here into that second lane and trying to cross him over down the straightaway. The reason here is because even though there isn't much banking, you can still use that to gain momentum down the straightaway, and all you need is a nose. Kibby again here. You see him cross the rear bumper, have a little bit of speed on, kind of jerk the wheel a little bit there. Even something as small as that can ruin that run down the straightaway.
I mentioned the corners to say when he's backing up his corners aggressively. There's the risk though with the diamond line running in 1 and 2 because there is a little divot where if you go too low on that arc, it can snap you around. I almost feel like that was where you seen the snap last time. He avoided it this time.
And that's interesting, right? You never really think about the bumps. Even at a place like Talladega, Daytona, especially not at a concrete cornered Martinsville, you don't really think that there is some sort of bumps. But yeah, even those bumps, little inversions almost, they can really hurt the car. Now Menda under attack, Justin Morton moving into third, and now off of that restart, Shepard got pushed back into fifth. Now he's trying to reclaim that fourth position, and right behind him is another championship competitor, James Lowe.
So all these drivers need to go lockstep if they want to try and secure points again. They have to have clean races from this point on. Any mistakes or any incidents from the top 3 put Shepard even more into realistic contention. It was talked about it'd be a tough chance to close on you with him missing that race early on the campaign. Now, with him in P4, they need to hope that they aren't the drivers who make mistakes in these types of scraps. The top 4 now getting held up here by Brian Dean, it looks like.
Dean right now just trying to run his own pace, and sometimes when you have cars like this right behind you, it can force you into a position that you aren't comfortable with, and that is detrimental to you. So Brian Dean right now controlling the pace of this race, which is so easy to do at a track like Martinsville. We're on the front bumper here. James Lowe trying to pass the 25-year firefighter veteran out of Pensacola, Florida. Menda, though, holding on here tight. There's only so many passing times that you can make here, and you can't force something because that can put yourself in a bad position, not just the guy in front of you.
Yeah, both of these cars struggling a little bit. James Lowe sending it a little bit deeper compared to some of his other competitors. Menda struggling on corner exit. So both of them in turn not carrying the same amount of momentum as they would need for them to keep up with the top 4 bumper to bumper or to make the pass in the case of James Lowe. By the way, that's Lord Joe Austin Belkey right on behind. Belkey, the fastest car last time by, a 20.7, already 3 to 4 tenths of a second fall off.
And how about Austin Belkey with the updated throwback? He swapped from DuPont to Exalta. Yes, that's basically the same thing. So, got the updated paint scheme, put the new DuPont logo, if you will, Exalta on the old throwback machine of Jeff Gordon. Rainbow Warrior flame paint scheme. I'm okay with that. Lowell Jewell here, the boss man, trying to fight his way into the top 5 right now as well. We've seen Jewell have some good finishes. Last week had some bad luck, and so it's been an up and down season for the 19.
Yep, +3. As Jason Menda gets lit up the racetrack. Several drivers now go underneath. Lowell Jewell makes the pass. And I believe that Menda may have overcooked 1 and 2 to open up that opportunity.
That is all it takes. On board here with Menda coming off of 4. We'll watch him going into 1. And take a listen as well here on the gas and what you have to do to save this car.
Great save.
Woo! Not keeping that out of the wall. That right there is hard to do.
That cost him a ton of spots, though. He is now in 7th position, -5 in the race as a result of that. It's opened up the door a little bit for a couple of the other competitors to try and reel back in. Brian Dean, still the race leader. Kibby still has not been able to make the move. He's looked a couple times, but again, he and everyone else, again, just seems content on just riding for now and saving.
You really can't force the issue at Martinsville, because what happens if you force the issue, get your nose in there on a quarter panel, and the guy in front of you just isn't really sure what you're doing? All you're going to do is take out the entire field. You know, it's not just going to spin out the guy in front of you, it's going to put you in a bad position as well. So, in a race this early, and the fact that you know that everyone is on these same lap tires, no tire changes in this 100-lap race, you have to wait for the guy in front of you to make a mistake to open the door. If you start trying to force something, you can put yourself in a worse position than the guy who you're trying to fight with.
Exactly. One making quite a major move yet. James Lowe trying to keep up with the pack. The fastest car on the racetrack last time by. He also has the purple lap for the event. Still 75 laps to go with the top 5 separated by 1 second, and there it is. Brian Dean lets him go, opens up the bottom. Morden also opens up the bottom for Shepard as both of them pass.
And now your new leader is your points leader, Kenny Kibby now. His first full season in the Grand National Series, the inaugural, or technically second, the inaugural in this group of seasons, if you will, of the Dirt Street Stock Series. I don't know the right way to put that apparently, but Kibby now looking for a Grand National Championship as well.
And he's kept Shepard right on his toes all season. JR has talked about this a couple times during his postseason, or post-race wins rather, where Kibby has been right on the money on pace-wise with them. Shepard, by the way, second as Brian Dean's going backwards.
And that's a tough break for Dean. We've seen so many drivers get that pole position from the invert and try to blow away the rest of the field, and they use up those tires. Dean did a good job managing his machine there, but I think it just comes down to, we know the 4 drivers who, number 1, know how to put on a good pace, number 2, know how to save tires, number 3, know how to combine those for laps, and those can be the 4 drivers who are right on the bumper.
Now the question's going to be, how does Shepard play this? Because we know how much he can save tires. He really likes to back it on down. Take a look on board, for example. He is currently letting Kibby, it seems, dictate his own pace and then reel it back in as the run goes on. Let him burn up the tires now.
That's a switch that he flips, and you're never quite sure when he's going to do it. And I don't know if it's a mental thing where you can see, okay, the guy in front of me is struggling, the guy in front of me is running a different line, or just the tires are wearing out. But he either sees when it's time to strike, or he knows what time it is that he needs to start going. And I can't ever tell. I've tried to watch it back and see if I can see what JR sees. I can't ever find out exactly when that switch gets flipped.
It varies, it seems, from track to track, right? Where sometimes he'll make it up to the front by the halfway point, sometimes 25 to go. Thinking back to the springtime especially, there were several instances where every time there was a caution, guess who would get the benefactor of getting the preferred restart line with the scoring loops? JR Shepard, which helped on top of that to help him gain one of the positions early on in the race, to the point where once he got to the lead, he didn't really necessarily have to deal with trying to burn up the tires to pass.
And he's so patient, and almost every driver in the series, I think, will tell you that they learn from JR almost every race, and JR is a great teacher for this series. And what really makes this league unique is being able to teach and learn from one another and try to go out and race and have a good time. And JR, he's a manufacturing engineer. He has 6 years of running Legends cars out in Tennessee. He used to work on his dad's dwarf car.
Oh, caution! Lil Jewel is around to the front stretch to bring us back in our yellow, and just like that, that experience may come into play here as they'll have an hour restart with about 65 to go.
Boy, unfortunate here is we'll take a look at the replay. He was running in the 6th position. He was actually starting to keep up with your lead group. Running into 3 and 4, overshoots. And sometimes what you do is you just try to get back on the gas. You know you're behind, so you try to get back on the gas early. And that brought the rear of the car out, and there was nothing he could do after that.
Take a look on board. Right there, yes, absolutely easy to do, especially once you burn off that right rear tire. To just hit the gas too hard, it just completely hooks like that, where your only hope is to lock it up and hope you don't hit the wall.
And that's the mental game, right, Justin? It's just that you're thinking, okay, I'm off a little bit, and so on the corner exit, I overshot it. Well, I want to get back on the gas and try to make up that time. That's just not how it works a lot of the times, especially when it comes down to short track racing in a track like Martinsville where you can't change tires at. When you try to get that extra little bit and hit that gas, boy, it's just not worth it. But you think in your head, right, this is going to work just fine. Why? Because I'm just getting on the gas a little earlier than usual. And nope, not here.
Couple things to note. 2 drivers took fast repairs under this caution. Kurt Smith and Mike Allen both came down. Tim Janowski did make his way back on the racetrack. He is the lucky dog, now 2 laps down after being in the pit lane for more than 2 minutes. Only 1 DNF. Jeffrey Harden parked his car. Remember, he was the one without the TV panel at that time. He is now 18 laps down. 17 cars still on the racetrack. Kibby, Shepard, Morton, Dean, and Lowe. So your top 5. The battle for the pole for the next race. Belke, Menda, Pearson currently your 6 through 8 cars. Pearson would be that pole sitter if it was to stick.
We have seen the past few weeks, the battle for 8th has been more intense than the battle for the lead. These drivers know what is at stake when you are driving in the 10th place position. You know just 2 more spots puts you on the pole. And even though that doesn't always guarantee you a top 5 the next week, we just saw in Tim Janowski's case, starting up front, so much more beneficial than having to come from the back.
Absolutely, and keep in mind for Bruce Pearson, lots of experience for this driver. Works in race officiating in Colorado, has also raced in several different types of race car classes. He also at the same time has had a school security for a international junior and senior high school. But the main kicker is also owns his own STEM program. You know, the importance of STEM in the way you go through that pipeline through your education these days.
Absolutely, and STEM is at just so many different schools. I think most everyone teaches it. Science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, so important in today's world. And it's just cool to see everything that he does.
And the crazy thing is too, one of the main parts of the program as well is also using broadcasting via iRacing amongst that program as well.
Aha! Okay, interesting. Write it down.
That's a good way to get track experience, right?
Yeah.
To get yourself some experience to the real world track in the future. 60 to go as Kenny Kibby brings his virtual car to the green. In trouble behind as James Lowe gets hit from behind. Caution is out.
What in the world? I don't know. I guess something happened. It might have been electronic malfunction. Something happened to that 99. And boy, there was nothing that Menda could do. We'll take a look back here, and after we take a look from the camera, I'd like to take a look on board and see what happens here. Watch that orange 99. He almost gets tire spin, and the car just stops.
Yeah. Want to hear an on board because I almost wonder if something happened once that got to the point where it almost got stuck in gear. He definitely missed a shift there.
That was a long miss, though. I feel like something maybe technologically went wrong there. He needs to learn a little bit more on his STEM programming, maybe. But No, that was really, really weird, because typically when you miss a shift, you don't miss it for that long.
That is a big time incident. He's going to have to take the faster pair and have to take it quick, because we talked about needing to get some valuable points. He's got maybe 10 seconds to where he can take that faster pair. If you're a fan of Tim Shanowski, by the way, he's only 1 lap down now. So it's on the caution flag. Jason Menda also taking a faster pair after hitting the back end there in that big checkup effect.
Boy, that's a shame. You love seeing that 45 do well here in this league, but unfortunately down to the back. But this sets up an interesting group of circumstances. We saw how fast Shanowski was in practice. Obviously does not have those same tires, but now Lowe and Shanowski will be coming from 15th and 16th on the grid here. We're nearing halfway, so you are nearly 50 laps on your tires, and you got to try to run through the field. I know that for Shanowski, it's not quite as vital to get up front, but for Lowe, the intensity is probably going to be a little high.
Extremely high. Especially since you talked about the difficulty to pass. Keep this in mind, Bobby Rafferty had some troubles. For example, he ran the modified race earlier tonight. He only can get to P5 before he ended up DNFing from that race. So even the quickest of drivers, if you don't have the track positions, even the caution flags to gather yourself back up, you're not making up time.
And you just have to have a little bit of help sometimes. And that's something that I think J.R. Shepard mentioned about the point series. You know, last year he would have some issues, or someone else would have some issues, and I mean, that would essentially change the points battle. Well, this year, Kibby, Gordon, Lowe, they haven't had any issues. They've been performing well. They haven't had any bad luck. This is the first dose of bad luck for Lowe. Can he recover now? Because if just every driver has one bad race, that puts J.R. Shepard right back in this championship hunt.
And keep in mind as well, it took Lowe about the full season last campaign for him to recover from the bad luck early on in that series season. Have to see how he tries to recover here, approaching halfway, 54 laps to go. We'll try it again. Justin Morton moves up to 3rd position. Brian Dean will start in 4th. It's the still same 2 cars on the front row. Green flags out, back their way. Kibby into turn 1, clear Shepard.
Front 2 rows took off. Around goes Austin Belkey. Lowell Jewell gone to the back of him. There comes the caution there. Lowell Jewell, I think, is going to be the car causing the caution there. Another domino effect here on a restart.
And Belkey actually lost his front bumper, and to the point where it's now debris on the racetrack. You see your GSRC replay. Jewell with the contact from behind and the checkup effect. Brings the caution. Donnie Moore, Steven Spees also involved.
Boy, nothing Donnie Moore could do there. Just a car flying at you from the left side. You can't do a single thing about that. It looked like Belkey really checked up the corner there. Jewell was not ready. It backs up the entire inside line. Boy, Donnie Moore just gets obliterated. Let's ride on board with Donnie Moore, and you'll just see how fast this just happens. I'm good, I'm good. No.
Sometimes you just have to pick a line right and commit to it. As drivers like Anthony Alfredo will tell you, that time the commitment closed up and quick. Just like that, faster pair used. He and Lowell Jewell, though, have now used those up. 10 cars have not used a faster pair in this race. The interesting of them all, though, is still Todd Liston, who struggled on the initial start after getting crashed beginning this race. But he's recovered since, because the car, while it bottomed out at the start of the race, Devin, as the fuel's burned off, the front nose has stopped scraping.
Yeah, that's something a little different. This is actually a fixed setup here, BRL, so that makes things a little interesting.
Keep in mind, one of the main things is there's a lot of fuel you have in the back of the race car, right? You fill with a full tank with the normal setups. As the race goes on, though, the fuel burns away, lifts that car essentially, and takes some weight off the back end, and in turn shuffles the said weight around. And for some competitors, when there's open sense, they build their cars to that specific fuel adjustment. For these competitors, they need to be able to adapt to that potential weight shift. For Todd Liston, he's been adapting to it better and better as the run has gone on. At the halfway mark, he's P6.
No, I just realized this. Even though it's a fixed setup, you can change your strategy too based on that. Running in fourth gear under caution, trying to save fuel. If you're saving fuel, that means that the rear end will be heavier longer. If you try to hold it in first gear under caution, try to waste that fuel, whatever you're most comfortable with or what you think will be the most beneficial towards the end of the race, being able to know and realize how the fuel can affect the setup of a car along with worn tires 80 laps through a race, that can even be strategy in its own right throughout a 100-lap race where there are no tire changes and it's a fixed setup.
And on top of that, you're allowed to change the brake bias as we get the one-to-go signal for these cars. Is if you don't have the right brake bias, not only can you overcook the corner or say spin the car out or push tight, it can actually cause the car to bottom out because you're putting in too much brakes where once the weight collapses on the shocks, you're smashing it down, the nose down on the track.
That's very true. Fixed setup does not mean no skill when it comes to setup, right?
Exactly. 48 laps to go. Kibby, Shepard, Morton, Dean still your top 4. Pearson and Liston your top 6. Green flags out. And once more, the nocturnal gaming machine off and away.
Bruce Pearson and Todd Liston able to keep up in row 3 with the rows in front of them. Pearson now moving into the 5th spot on the track. Along with this set of circumstances, James Lowe has moved into the 12th position, trying to make his trek up from the back of the pack, but right now stuck in the outside lane.
We've seen, though, Shepard tried to make the outside line work off the restart. He kept it side by side last time by. Just couldn't get the traction to the concrete to keep Kibby down low.
That's where it all comes down to patience. And as we mentioned earlier, J.R. Shepard typically knows when is it go time, when is it chill time, when do we just sit behind this orange and black number 14 machine and let Justin Morton hang out behind me for a little bit. So that's just all up to him. How much does he want to hold back? Does he want to go hard? And being able to adjust on the fly is what has made him the best in this series.
Absolutely. By the way, with that last caution flag, Tim Shanelsky is back on the lead lap, 17th position, make it 16th this time by after a near spin by Donnie Moore off the corner. The top two, though, separate by just about 0.2 of a second, and Shepard is coming. He wants the lead and wants it now. Looking to the inside, showing the nose. Will Kibby give him the space? Gives him a little bit, but not too much.
When you look on the wall, that switch has moved from the off position to the on position somehow. And now J.R. Shepard gunning for the lead for a little bit. Now once again trying to reel back in that rear bumper. Coming to 40 to go. Still plenty of race left though for the Crew Shop 98.
And as well, they have Justin Morton in this grouping as well. Remember, secured his victory back here in the springtime. One of the initial races for the Moonshine Challenge. Kibby, meanwhile, looking to add himself to the race list winners, to say the very least, after taking a little while off and coming back to this series and returning to his premier series on Saturday nights.
And it's incredible because with how well he has performed this season, has yet to get in that win column. It's been dominated by J.R. Shepard, 5 races this year. And then you have Lowe, he's picked up 2 victories, but your points leader still has yet to visit victory lane. Might be able to change that here.
Your popcorn out, to say the very least. Coming up to 40 laps to go this time. Shepard again, harder on the send. Might try and peak off of turn 4. Trying to diamond it, Kibby parks the bus. Morton still watches on behind as these two continue to scrap hard, bumper to bumper.
And this is a tough part when you're the 3rd or 4th car in line and these cars are squeezed so tight. If Kibby were to brake check just a little bit, I'm not saying on purpose or anything like that, but he just misses his entry maybe a little bit, slows down too soon. Justin Moore, with how close he is to this rear bumper of J.R. Shepard, that would cause him to have to take evasive action almost. These guys are just running so close together right now, bumper to bumper.
100%. And the main thing to think about too is if Kibby, say, slides up towards the safer barrier even a couple inches earlier than Shepard, that's enough of a slide up to open up the bottom of the racetrack. Because the tighter you get, the worse it gets. It's getting to where, though, these tires for some of them are getting to where the cars are going so loose, it's almost tight, it seems.
And another factor into that, at these slow speeds, quote unquote, they're only going like 120. If you do slide up and maybe touch the wall and exit, it is incredible only going 120 miles an hour, how hard you shoot off to the left. So if, say, Shepard were to take a door like that, but then Kibby bounces off the wall, well, now you're in the danger zone, right? So there's so much that goes into just making a single pass at Martinsville and evaluating what's going on in front of you.
The top 3 are covered in a blanket. Top 8 separated by about 3 seconds on the racetrack, 3.5 seconds even. Oki, though, has lost touch to the top 7. Morton, though, clipped a little bit of the curbing. And that also could be a major factor for these cars. You touch a little bit of that red and white curbing, that's a little bit of the splitter touching and can, in turn, cause you to slide up.
Boy, you can hit that thing like a rallycross car sometimes. It will lift the wheels off the ground if you are not careful. And in these ARCA Menards machines here that National Series is running, that can upset this vehicle so bad that it will ruin your entire race. And I want to go back to how difficult it is to pass here. James Lowe just made the pass for 10th. He is only +2 since that last restart. He is having trouble getting back up to the field.
Now let's take a look at him specifically. He's one of the quicker cars still on the track in the 20.9s, but the problem is, yes, that is not going to be enough to even get to some of the other cars, since it takes about 10 laps minimum in some cases to set up a pass here.
That's what in part makes it difficult. If the guys in front of you aren't making mistakes, or even say they're going too slow, being too cautious to make a mistake, what do? I mean, you can try to force a pass on the outside. That just doesn't really work at a track like this. But look at the spacing. I mean, there's no one around James Lowe really right now within a few car lengths. And that's what happens here. I mean, he's on a restart. He's probably around cars that are a little bit slower than him. But when everyone starts to spread apart, it takes a long time to reel everyone in. Meanwhile, a battle for 6 here. Altice trying to hold back. Todd Listner actually might be looking to make the pass here. And this is right around our invert spot.
Todd Listner scraped the wall down the front straightaway last time by. That opened up the door for Bruce Pearson. And now Altice able to pass on by. You've seen that huge hit against the curbing, though. Liston now is really struggling with that race car. Caution is out. It's 9th place. Joe Segallo around in the 81. And with under 30 to go, we'll bunch him back up once more. This could be the most important restart coming up.
Uh-oh. Something weird happened here, and it involves a championship competitor. James Lowe stuck in the back. A little bit of issues here. Watch that black and green 81. Another strange thing here where the car feels like it just stops.
Now let's take a look. Yeah, he hit the wall, and if you hit the wall again with this car, it can get you essentially stuck to it. When he went to back off the wall, no room to respond for the car behind.
I mean, he barely touches the wall with the right rear quarter panel, and it just sucks you in. And it basically just grabs you and tries to hold on to you. And Lowe just did not have enough time to react. And I think he has a little bit of front bumper damage. As long as it didn't hurt the suspension, he's not in a bad position. But again, like I said earlier in the race, last thing that you want to do is have to come from the back. There's a good reason why.
I think it's more than a little bit. The whole right front is just crunched and over top the tire. It's to the point where it's visible on that car. The TV panel is also coming off Segallo's race car. Keep in mind, he has not used a fast repair yet in this race. He is now 15th. I don't think he's using it quite yet, though, because there's still chances of more trouble with the now restart going.
Absolutely. This is the last thing that I wanted to see, because the last couple of restarts we had have come from cautions because of the most recent restart that we had. So we have had some really troubling issues on restarts tonight, and that's just what happens when you come to a track like Martinsville.
Keep in mind, if that TV panel comes off, and this is something I've noticed since a iRacing update about a couple weeks ago, not a build, a new update. The cars actually have the material stay on the track. in turn can be debris. You hit the front bumper, let's say, of a car that falls off. You hit the TV panel, it demolishes your car.
Yeah, I don't love that about this update, and I've had even cases where someone's rear bumper actually lifts my front wheels off the ground and you can't get it off. It's kind of like when the blue cone gets stuck in your IndyCar or something. Yeah, no debris cautions here, and it can cause absolute turmoil.
I mean, it's realistic, right?
I guess.
You have to deal with potential debris to dodge around unless you get a debris caution. Looking realism, 2020 style. Kibby and Shepard, meanwhile, continue to battle it out. Martinsville style. 25 to go, green flags out.
Good jump for Kibby. Shepard trying to cling on.
Todd Liston gets sent around. He, Lowe, and several others in trouble. Kurt Smith against the wall. Caution is out. And they're still wrecking down the back.
Lowe almost got into another heap of trouble. Able to stay away, though. Kurt Smith, he's the cause of the caution, but he was at the tail end of that. So,
yeah,
we'll take a look here. You see the Mark Martin throwback. This begins in front of him. He's just a bystander who gets ripped here. Spees, we have two separate incidents here. Lowe gets into the back of Liston, and Spees got into the back of Belke, checked everyone up, and Kurt Smith is just the unluckiest of the group.
Yeah,
incident number one, incident number two was on the left.
Bam. Well, Belke actually ricocheted off Liston from the initial hit, and they still wrecked down the back. Some of them ended up breaking some of their axles on the race cars. So some of those drivers, significant damage. It is not going the night for some of your championship contenders, to say the very least. After that one, Joe and Belke to the pit lane as a result from that one.
And Belke's been needing to go into the pits for a fast repair. He's been running without a bumper for a few dozen laps. So he's going to go and finally get that fast repair. I guess he thinks it's time now, but James Lowe moves into the 9th position after that. This is why you don't like to go to the back at a track like Martinsville.
22 to go. And now this is the tough part, because keep in mind there is a 1 hour time limit for this series, which has only came into a factor about once to my remembrance for the BRL Grand National Series. If you're Shepard, knowing the pressure's on, you're losing laps, you're losing daylight, the lights are in fact starting to turn on above you, how do you try and get this pass done before you get this checkered?
Well, you're not going to get it done if we keep getting a yellow on every single restart, unless you jump him. So there's that. But we're going to go green with about 20 to go here. So, I mean, when you have to start on the outside, you almost get punched 2 to 3 tenths behind the guy in front of you. You have to make that up and then make the move. You can use your bumper. It just doesn't always work out the right way. Sometimes that actually will clip your front end and spin you out. So we'll see, and that's not usually how these guys race either, so they might not have a ton of experience in that.
The top 8 cars have yet to use their fast repairs. Kibby and Shepard, Morton and Dean, Altice and Pearson, Spees and Liston among your top 8 cars. Green flags out, back on our way. Bit of an earlier launch this time for Kibby on the corner exit. Appears to be a clean start this time. Morton was able to pass by Dean quickly. Altice and company looking to open up the bottom behind the 23, but the lead is on.
98 kept on the rear bumper of Kenny Kibby, but still just can't quite make the move. And this is where maybe if you're Kibby, do you stay less aggressive than ever here and try to keep the 98 behind you? Because if you try to go too fast and you make a mistake on a corner, you can open the door and then everything is said and done. And look at this battle for 8th here. In 8th right now is James Lowe, and they're 2 wide in front of him. Yeah, don't go 3 wide at Martinsville. Ooh, Liston. Another save there, but now Lowe still stuck here behind 2 cars.
That Max Verst car has not been having some fun tonight, to say the very least. But to the inside, J.R. Shepard. Kibby gives him some space. Can't get there as Morton slides up the racetrack. Shepard again tries to poke underneath for the 14, again defends with 17 to go.
Shepard has tried that twice, and Kibby has a great line. He lets him have the inside there. Kibby will then cross over in the corner, use his momentum to cut off the 98. Look at Shepard. Now Shepard is trying that exact same line here that Kibby just used on him to defend, and Shepard on the gas a little too early, and he's going to lose a little time.
With about 35 degrees off the corner exit. Coming up to 15 to go this time. Bit of a kick out this time from Kibby as they all burn up the right rear tires. Morton was the quickest car on the track last time by with the space.
These guys all stacked up, and if something happens, Brian Dean has been running a great race. Oh, here comes Justin Morton to the inside for second.
Taking a peek, but can't make it. Just wanting to be safe, it looked like, under the brakes. You don't want to try and dive it in because of how crucial these points can be.
You can see the desperation is rising. Ooh, both Shepard and Morton losing it a little bit off the corner. Both drivers are just taking shots, trying to see what sticks to the wall here. So far, nothing yet. And with both drivers slipping up off of 4 last time, Kibby gets a little bit of breathing room.
16 cars still in the lead lap, mind you. Joe Sagala's come in and used the faster pair. He's lost already a lap, may lose a second. The thing is, though, he's about to come out next to these cars and does the smart thing. Stops right at the green cone for the whole entire pack, so the lead doesn't get impeded with 12 to go.
And that doesn't bring out a caution. We've had issues with that before, so good heads-up thinking right there to make sure nothing happened.
Still Morton trying to diesel on. About a half a second gap between Kibby and Shepard. 11 to go this upcoming time by. Kibby is now the quickest car in the top 3. He's got better grip. Shepard is losing his right rear tire.
Kibby now up to about a 5-car length advantage. Shepard right behind, or excuse me, right in front of Morton, though. Morton is still about a 1/4 car length behind him, and the top 3 starting to pull away as they go down the back straight.
Coming up to 10 laps to go. Morton still over the back end of Shepard. Back and forth as Morton nearly drifts it, trying to get the corner exit. None of them can get the dive quite yet. Kibby still leads by 3/10. Can Shepard calm down? The tires caution is out. Jason Menda and several cars are involved as we're back in our yellow, and this changes everything.
Been a rough day for Menda, spinning out on the front straightaway here. I'm going to see if I can get a replay myself here. And it looks like just a lot of misfortune for Menda all day today, right? And this time for Menda, something just oh so simple. A little bit too much acceleration off the corner spins him out, and that brought out the caution. Just a single car incident that almost got Shinoski turned by Lowe as well.
Absolutely. Again, for reference, Menda off of turn 4. Spun it around, hit the gas as he slammed the wall, and then Lowell Jewell hit the back end and demolished Tim Shinowski's rear bumper in his Ford. So 3 cars involved in the caution, but that will trigger Mike Allen and Jason Menda back to the pit lane as well, though. Another restart, and this may be the last one of the race. Kibby, Shepard, Morton, and Dean, your top 4. The top 3 were all bumper to bumper right before that caution just about.
And remember, the rules here are the old school short track racing rules. There are no green-white checkers. So if we get another caution before the checkered flag, that's going to be it. This is going to be about a 5-lap shootout maybe. And so that is going to make the desperation level rise even more here. And we will see exactly how less timid these drivers are going to get gunning for the lead.
And keep in mind, that lap you just mentioned with 5 to go is around your point of no return on the iRacing service for races without green-white checkers available. Kibby looking for his first win in this series, and he has been keeping Shepard on his toes all season, finished second multiple times. Do you think tonight's his night with this many laps left?
Well, so far so good, right? He has been the only guy the past few seasons to keep Shepard behind him, right? No one's been able to keep Shepard behind him for this long, and not to mention shield off any attack that Shepard has thrown at him. Having the inside line here, I think, will make the biggest difference because from every restart so far, Shepard has fallen back maybe 2-3 tenths, and there's not a lot of time to make it up.
Almost looked like before he maybe thought of the tires save, but now there's no time for the tires because when the green flag flies, will be more than pass the point of no return. Lights are still on, expecting him to turn off this time. It'll be a 4-lap dash to the finish.
This will be interesting because also, I know it's hard to pass here, as we mentioned. James Lowe is an 8th, starting on the outside line. Will he try to force anything to gain a couple more positions? Obviously, he's in a vulnerable spot being in the outside lane, but he needs to get spots for this championship battle.
1 to go signal on the racetrack this time by 5 to go at the flag stand, coming up to 4 to go when the green flag flies. Kibby and Shepard in row 1, Morton and Dean in row 2. Altice starts on the inside of row 3 alongside Bruce Pearson. Then it's Todd Liston and James Lowe rounding out your top 8. Donnie Moore, Steven Spies inside the top 10. 16 cars in the lead lap for a 4-lap dash from the paperclip. Kenny Kibby making his way off turn 4. Green flag is out. We're backing away. Kibby with a good launch. Shepard with a bit of tire spin on the top. Kibby clearing a 1.
And I think you almost didn't want that because Shepard was able to settle right in behind Kibby. If he would have been side by side going into 1, that would have forced Shepard to be even further back. But the top 3 again running away from the field here, and it might just be enough. Kibby still has to force a little bit of blocking here. Shepard is right up on the rear bumper.
Under 3 laps to go now. Shepard right on the rear end of Kenny Kibby, trying to get a good corner exit. Over the back end. Shepard taking a look to the inside in turn 3. Kibby cuts him off. Shepard now dives up to the top line. Goes for the diamond off turn 4. Checked up again with 2 laps to go. Shepard now to the inside down the front.
He has a little bit. Kibby uses that outside lane. Tries to get momentum. Can't cut off the 98. Off the back straightaway. Kibby does have the momentum though and clears once again coming to the white.
Race is official with the white flag. Next flag ends it. Both cars loose off the corner. White flag is out. Final lap from Martinsville. Can Kenny Kibby finally win a race? Steven Spies around down the front stretch. Battle for the lead still on. Shepard spins the back end tires. One last chance to send it. Can't get there. Final corner. Kenny Kibby has done it. Your points leader is in BRL's Grand National Series victory lane. He wins it at Martinsville. Kenny Kibby, your race winner over Shepard and Morton. What a finish. Post-race coverage coming up in just a few moments. Stand by. You're watching the Global Sim Racing channel from Martinsville Speedway. Welcome back to Martinsville Speedway for post-race coverage of the BRL's Grand National Series. As we get ready to take a look and take a read through your race results, it's Kenny Kibby who takes home the race victory tonight by just about under 0.2 of a second. J.R. Shepard comes home in second, while Justin Morton, Brian Dean, and Bruce Pearson round out the top 5. Ruben Altice goes from 18th to 6th, with Donnie Moore recovering from some troubles from 16th to 7th. Austin Belke puts himself in the pole position slot in P8 tonight. See how he handles the next race after the Thanksgiving break with Todd Liston and Lowell Jewell rounding out your top 10 tonight, Devin.
Excuse me, I had some technical difficulties on my end too, Justin. Go ahead and take it away.
James Lowe in 11th position, Tim Shanowski in 12th, Jason Menda, Kurt Smith, Mike Allen, Steven Spees, Joe Sagawa, Jeffrey Harding came away with the top 18. I'd like to apologize due to technical difficulties. He's for reasons unknown. We'll have to end things early, but we'd like to thank you in turn, though, for tuning in for tonight's action of the Bootleg Racing League, for organizing this exciting series, and what an exciting finish for one Kenny Kibby. Thank the companies for the software and hardware for broadcasts, as well as additional thanks to Jude Lawan, who provides the wonderful music. I'd also like to thank the team today once more in Devin and Sean. To find out more about GSRC and Clinic races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. Support the channel. You can check out our merchandise for sale on gsrc.stormviewwine.com or check out our social media on Twitter at GSR Channel, along with Facebook Global Sim Racing Channel and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. Don't forget to head over to YouTube page, hit that big red subscribe button as well as the notification bell so don't miss a moment on the Global Sim Racing Channel. Next race for this series is at New Smyrna Speedway after Thanksgiving on December the 5th. Be sure to tune in, as we also have plenty of upcoming races till then for other series listed on your screen. Check those out and mark them down your calendar. And until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.